Hi, everyone. I am Tammy Cho. I am a Chief Energy Officer and a face and body analysis expert. And prior to all of this, I worked as a registered nurse, a patient care leader for about 20 years. And so, me and Marina, my special guest today, has been talking about this transition because Marina has came from the background of being a pharmacist. And so we wanted to jump on today to really talk about Marina, her specialty, and how she transitioned from pharmacy, being a pharmacist, to a holistic entrepreneurship. So she has a very wide range of tools under her belt. And so let me just introduce Marina. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so Marina is a functional medicine pharmacist, mental fitness health coach, herbal educator, and a lifelong learner of the healing arts. She is a creator of Build Your Holistic Herbal Practice course, mentoring other healthcare professionals in clinical herbalism as well as business skills. She's also a functional medicine pharmacist as well as a farm-to-table telehealth platform. She's a part of that. And then she's also the host of the Holistic Pharmacy podcast, which I had the pleasure of being on. So welcome, Marina.
Yeah, Tammy, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, and me as well, because I know we jive on so many different layers, and so I'm excited to just dive into you and learn, more about your journey. Like, so I know with this transition, tell us how does this, transition for you, support you in surrendering to your life purpose, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we were just chatting before we started this, and it's been my journey and something that I've been reconciling in my career and my whole life that we are a whole being. That's why the word holistic really resonates for me. And to me, that means that nothing that happens in life is separate from anything else. So just like we have a whole body, mind soul connection, and we can't truly separate things into little pieces that we try to do, and we do fairly well, but at the end of the day it's a continuum. So our whole life and our whole health and our whole being, it's all interconnected, and it requires some relearning and unlearning and surrendering to really come into your whole self. And I think a lot of us are looking for that fulfillment, right? Or that satisfaction from life. And that has to come with some lessons and some learning curves and some growth and some evolution. And on the other side of that is also surrendering. So this dance between being where you are and then getting to the next phase of wherever you're going.
Yeah, and we're on the same page around this whole body, mind, heart, soul alignment. Everything is truly connected, and when we can see things in this way, right, life just looks completely different. And so, like, obviously, as a pharmacist, you didn't feel necessarily this wholeness, which
Yeah.
which made you create this surrendering into yourself and to create this change. And so, tell us a little bit about that journey and like how you started doing what you're doing now.
Yeah, so it wasn't linear, I would say. Growing up, and having a certain background and being an immigrant and having parents who encourage sort of like my rational mind and my logical side, and they're both chemists and biologists, and me coming into the pharmacy field because I was feeling well equipped and confident at the time with that set of skills. And then just kind of exploring as I was graduating these different aspects of health myself in my own personal life, and just understanding that unfortunately Western medicine and a pill for every ill that I had been learning in pharmacy school, it's not
Mhm.
as simple as that. It's much more complex and complicated because we are much more complex and complicated, and adjusting these tiny little minuscule like levers that people think are inside the body. Okay, you're on low on that, let's give you that. You're dysfunctional in that, so let's give you that to fix it. It
Mhm,
really
mhm.
does become like that journey and that itch that you can't ever really scratch, where it becomes like the domino effect. You're always like searching and chasing after that next level of health, or sort of even perfection or balance or harmony and homeostasis. And the reality is the body is always trying to be in homeostasis. The body is dynamic, right? There's never one stasis. There's never one state where you're just, okay, you're perfect. And we're never going to stay in that perfect state. We're always going to be moving towards the next. And so our body's job has this capacity, and the way it's designed is to always be dynamic in response to your environment, in response to what's happening and in your environment, and following a certain stimulus. So us trying to capture this perfect moment and look at the blood work and like determine what's off and set it right, it's just kind of a recipe for failure at the end, because our body is supposed to like constantly be changing, and again being in this dynamic state of flow. And so I
Mhm.
think that's the principle that Western medicine, right, is presenting to us. And in reality, it is not a sustainable model. Again, it's amazing and it can help for those acute snapshots of time. And so I'm
Mhm.
super grateful. And I've had, the, I guess, unfortunate experience of being sick enough where I needed that life saving support myself. So I'm not
Mhm.
saying it's not useful, but what I am saying is that in order to reach your own equilibrium and your own, best level of, again, growth and potential, which I think as humans we want to be evolving for that next state, right? Always like looking where we are and wanting to, again, get ahead somewhere, getting to the next place. That's kind of our nature. So we can't really get there with this static picture of what we think it should be and what drug, we need to fill in the gap. It always
Mhm.
has to be beyond that, where we're fulfilling the foundations of health, which goes beyond drugs. It goes beyond the physical. So it's feeding the body what it needs physically, emotionally, and spiritually.
Yeah, yeah, and being that I have the background as a health professional as well, it's like it's very true. Like it's not A equals B in this world. It's really not that linear. And when I worked with doctors, it's often the pharmacist that they turn to towards medication. So it's really interesting to see Marina's background in knowing about the traditional drugs, so to speak, and stepping into herbalism and making that bridge. And so who is the audience that you support and serve, Marina?
Yeah, great question. So, a lot of my audience are other pharmacists, such as myself, that are just not satisfied. They feel like there's more that they can be using their skills for. They earned this pharmacist degree and they know a lot of medications and drugs. They know about the pharmacology and the pharmacokinetics, which again is like very exciting and amazing that we are these professionals that know so much about drugs. And at the same time, knowing about the drugs also teaches us so much about the body and how much, again, it goes beyond just simply having drug therapy. And even if we have somebody undergo drug therapy, we always have to do the non-pharmacological interventions first, foremost, and continuously with the drug therapy. So it's not like once somebody starts on a medication, we just drop off, and forget about all the lifestyle and other ways to support the body. So it's my belief that we need to be aware of and employ everything we have in our tools in our arsenal, like you were saying. So yes, drugs can be on board and sometimes are very helpful and beneficial, but for me the goal is always like how much can the body support itself with those foundational, right, the nutritional blocks, the lifestyle, the stress management, all these other tools that we have, so that we can actually diminish and reduce our reliance on drugs. And as we can see now in today's world, more and more people are waking up and wanting those other solutions. So, as pharmacists, I think we need to be well equipped to answer people's questions and to recommend other things outside the box that can either replace drugs or be complementary to those drugs.
Yeah, and so, um, highlight for us, right, the difference between like how medication and maybe herbs work, and how does this knowledge change someone's a professional's practice where they want to change careers, and to look at something a little bit more holistic.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So we know that drugs actually come from plants. That's the interesting and synergistic thing that I find as an herbalist and a pharmacist, that our original pharmacopoeia has always been derived from the natural world, most of it from plants, but some from minerals, rocks, crystals, like animals, reptiles, like venom of different snakes and things like that.
Oh,
So, you know, we are again, we don't live in a vacuum. It's not like, okay, we're this human, right? Human animal, and everything exists for us. We have to sort of step back and see where we are in the ecosystem of things, in the circle of life, and that we live within these five kingdoms, right, of living things. And so, what we do for supporting our health, we have traditionally and historically drawn on the environment and the outside
mhm,
world to fill in those gaps and to meet our own needs and to again co-evolve with these other species and beings. And it's not like we, just 1 minute we're there and then everything was here for us. So it's all a system. It's We're all sort of one. We can look at it as one organism. We can look at it as like all of these little things that exist are these organelles, and we're like this macrocosm, and we're this microcosm within this macrocosm. So that's how I like to look at it, like again, very, very holistically. And then when we look inside the body, it also is not sterile. It has its own microbiome, and that is another microcosm that we can get into. And so, what I mean to say is, our human cells, right, are just a part of the equation. There's like bacterial cells, viral, fungal, all kinds of things going on inside of our cells and inside of our intestines. And that really contributes to our health and how we operate as a whole being. So when we were starting to study medicine and the practice of medicine, we again used plants and we used these microorganisms and other beings and fungi and all of these things again for dietary ways of supporting our needs and our nutrients and move the bowels and cleanse the bowels and move the liver and detoxify and just help our organs work better essentially and feel better and have more energy and have less oxidation and stress and inflammation. So it eventually evolved into the allopathic model. So my point is that it's not very different, right? When we used to draw in the natural world, and then we started to synthesize and make semi-synthetic versions of these plants, and now we've moved into like a biologic age where now we have a lot of biological products on the market and where we extract things and it works on a little bit of a different level, and even nuclear pharmacy, and there's lots of different fields. But the basic premise is that we use plant material and other living beings to create
mhm,
what is now a crude drug. So nowadays it's very sophisticated. And again, most of the products are synthetic versions, and they're also in a way reductionist. What does that mean? That means there's only one active ingredient. So they figure out through studies and trial and error and experimentation what molecules do what, right? We try to figure out what's the mechanism of action, and we're trying to figure out what's the proper dose for that specific mechanism. And again, it's not a perfect science either. So we just average it out to the average population, and we have like these arbitrary dosing
mhm,
schedules, and we put people on these drugs. So with herbalism, it's not very different. However, it is much more customizable, and there's a net added layer of complexity, I would say, because we're not extracting in traditional herbalism and classic herbalism, we're not extracting just one single ingredient that we think is the best ingredient in this soup of phytochemicals. We actually use the whole plant as much as possible, and we use it in actually its crude forms as much as possible. So the entire part of the plant, like a leaf or a stem or a root, whatever was traditionally used for the medicinal benefits, and we qualify a lot of those effects energetically and constitutionally, meaning we want to understand what it's doing to the body and how it's supporting the body without having the exact information about which molecule does what and which lever it turns, like we talked about before. So we match up the cause and effect just like pharmacy, but it's a lot more about quality than quantity. And it's a lot more about understanding all the different layers of the person's health and physiology that one single plant can support versus, figuring out what are the, 10, 20, 30 different parts that we need to synthesize and add on to a drug regimen. So I hope that made sense.
Yeah, so sounds like it's, we're coming back to our roots in many ways, and being able to, expand our knowledge to really use the plants in a more holistic way and more customized to,
Yes.
the client we're working with, so to speak, right? And so it makes a lot of sense as someone is on the evolution of their journey, as working with pharmacists and spending all these years in school learning the pharmacokinetics, of how medications work, and then realizing there may be a more customizable way that maybe perhaps has less side effects,
Hmm.
unwanted side effects, and things like this, right? Um, and so when you are, like, thank you for, highlighting that difference. And I'm curious, like, for someone, I guess, who is looking for this transition, from one to the other. Um, what does that look like? How do you support someone through that?
Yeah, so great question. And this is actually what a lot of pharmacists have historically been coming to me for. So they start Googling, how do they branch out, right, of this pharmacy degree? They don't want to throw out the degree because they worked so hard and spent so much money and maybe even have loans to pay off for this degree. And they're proud of this
Mhm.
doctor title, which is, really significant. So they don't want to just, give up on pharmacy, even though they're not 100% aligned with, either dispensing pills in retail or whatever other setting they're in. So they look for ways that they could repurpose this degree, right? We have a lot of knowledge beyond the pharmacology, right? And incorporating pharmacology could also be a skill and a plus when it comes to herbalism or other alternative practices. So a lot of pharmacists have been, again, coming to me for advice because they Google and they see that I'm this pharmacist who is now practicing herbalism. So when you Google herbal and pharmacist, you will probably find me somewhere in the top rank.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm.
and they come upon my story and they want to know, okay, how can they implement something like this, either in their existing setting or how do they branch out, right? What does the first step look like? So they really want to kind of hear that. And actually, I've created a whole system where I interview other pharmacists that also have branched out or other practitioners, such as yourself, that have branched out from a more allopathic approach to a more holistic approach. And I, in I interview these people so that they could share their story and inspire anybody else that's looking outside the box, anybody else that's not, happy, 100% fulfilled doing, whatever their degree allows them to do or whatever they were taught to do. And they know that there's something more out there for them. So for me, I help train pharmacists and other professionals in the clinical implementation of herbalism. And depending on what practice setting they want to bring it to, or they want to build a new practice setting, or they want to bring it into an existing business or pharmacy, even, we've been implementing programs like this so they could use their knowledge and repurpose it in this new, more meaningful way and combine it with herbalism or other healing modalities and really help their communities so they could help themselves. Essentially, we're empowering people because there isn't a prescription that you have to get when you want to use plant medicine. You can go out, harvest it, grow it yourself, buy it from an herb or health food store, and you don't necessarily need somebody to tell you what to do, but you do need some information and knowledge and guidance. So that's where we can come in and offer that.
All right. So it sounds like you essentially help someone who's transitioning bring the herbalism side of it to be educated on it, as well as incorporate into the practice that they're in.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that sounds like a beautiful, like, transition to have a bridge, right? As you are, surrendering to more of what you feel called to do versus what no longer maybe feels in alignment for you, right? And so that's very beautiful what you do, Marina. And the other piece I know you do, just because I read it in your bio, is really this, like, mindset, mental fitness aspect, right? And so this is the piece that very much so, as someone who's transitioned from being a professional into something in the realm of entrepreneurship has a lot to do with changing how we see ourselves and experience our clients, even, and a lot about changing our mindset. And so, how do you support someone in this, Marina?
Yeah, so more and more along my journey into entrepreneurship and into a more leadership role, I have been met at every step of the way with specific challenges that I myself had to overcome. So for me, I, like many people probably, didn't really fully understand the mind body connection. And we say, yes, it's a continuum and it's a spectrum. And, you know, in holistic medicine, yes, we want to support mind and body. But when you start having these challenges in life or in business that actually teach you how much your brain and your mindset is either set for you or against you, and you keep on, you know, coming up with these challenges that show you the power of your own mindset, right? And just wanting to direct that energy and that potential that we keep talking about to support you versus the self-destructive maybe or sabotage parts of us where we are actually standing in our own way of going for that next step, or we experience sometimes this polarity where a part of us wants something and another part doesn't, right? So a part of us wants to change and wants to change our pharmacy career and break out and do something different. Or
Mm-hmm.
even when it comes to health, maybe we want to, you know, I don't know, a popular thing, right, is weight loss. And I started talking about that too recently on my platforms. So we say we want these things, but then our actions don't support the things we say that we want. So we really want to get on the same page with our own self. And for me, that's been a journey not only into surrender, but also alignment. So when every part of me can be in that supportive state, and when my body and my mind are on the same page, and when my mind, I'm arming my mind, right, to be my best supporter versus my worst enemy, which again, I've noticed from experience. And so some people think it's like woo woo or energetics or quantum physics or manifestation. And there are all these different ways and theories to go about what I'm sharing right now. But for me, the reality is, you know, there's also a human design perspective. I just want to bring that in. And so I've explored my own human design. Other people do astrology and all kinds of other things. But the idea is, you know, we have these archetypes, right? And we also have these systems. So whichever system, maybe it's religion, maybe it's psychiatry, you know, mental health professional that you speak to, maybe it's motivational self-help stuff. Whichever one you're feeling aligned and called to, and that speaks to you, I highly recommend that everybody has either a coach or a system in place or a community that is supportive, or ideally all three,
Mm-hmm.
because really you want to, again, arm yourself for success. And one key aspect is really how you yourself are ready, your own expectations and your own readiness and your willingness to overcome those challenges, and also to bet on yourself and to trust yourself so that you are not, you know, in this constant state, which I can definitely say that I've been a lot in the past, of this like give and take and doubt and fear and should I, shouldn't I, you know, and do I go for it or then do I hold myself back? And you're just steadily moving forward and making progress without that hesitation, without that, oh, maybe, you know, maybe I shouldn't, you know, go for herbalism or whatever it is that's in your heart to do. Oh, maybe I should just stay here. And, you know, a lot of that comes
Mm-hmm.
from safety. It's a safety defense mechanism that we've learned that change is risky, right? So this is a way that you're keeping yourself safe. If you don't make any behavioral changes, if you don't do anything differently, then you can never become somebody different. But
Mm-hmm.
change is a risk, because if you know you're safe where you are, right? Perhaps, or maybe that's an illusion too, which I think it is. So, but you think, okay, staying the same is safer because you know how to deal with this discomfort. So, even though this is not ideal, maybe you don't want to be a pharmacist doing what you do, but you
Mm-hmm.
just stay there because you feel like you can deal with this type of challenges that you have here on your plate. You've learned how to do it and you feel okay here. But if you are trying to change and be different, that comes with another set of challenges that you have to be willing to learn to overcome. So the system that I implement and that has been amazing for me is called positive intelligence. And it's really this way of, again, getting your whole self to be supportive of your actions so that your actions can actually manifest better results and you feel better every step of the way. So it's been absolutely life changing for me.
Mm. Beautiful. Like when I hear you talk about all these various aspects of what you do, essentially you're helping someone create a real bridge on many different levels, like not only in the knowledge base and incorporation, but also in the mental um, inner outer alignment of taking action, in this place of having one foot over here and one foot over here. And so I'm just curious, what can someone who chooses to work with you, like what kind of results can they expect to see?
Yeah, so that's a beautiful question. And I think, again, it doesn't matter if you see me for health reasons or if you see me for a career or life purpose or mental health or physical health or monetization of your skills, and business success. It's really going to be the same principles that we're going to be working on. And it does come as a body mind continuum and as a whole person, again, a holistic approach where we are going to get you to be that model version of yourself, and I think one of the most powerful trainings I've understood, right, and kind of embodied, and which helped me to become the version I am today, is really understanding that, like, if you have a dream and a vision and a goal, whether that's a healthier you, a more successful you, a happier you, what have you have to understand that there's this gap between present version you, again, that maybe is unwilling to make certain changes, but has this desire, right? And this desire is going to keep coming back. It's going to keep saying, just like your body will have one symptom, then another symptom, then another symptom, until you finally pay attention to that urge and that desire because it's there for a reason. So my job when working with you is to figure out what is this gap between present day you and this future perfect or more perfect, whatever have you, self, this version of you that is successful or that is happier, that is healthier. And so we have to figure out what is this gap and what is it going to take for you and what action needs to be taken for you to slowly become this new person, because this new person has different set of habits, they have a different set of beliefs. They conduct themselves differently. So, what is it that we have to do now for you to be on your way to this healthier self or to this, herbalist savvy business person that I also work with? And so we establish that and we use things like mindset and herbalism. And even if you're my student and we're learning how you can be a practitioner, you're going to be experiencing this. I highly recommend everybody have that empirical experience of playing around with the herbs and making your own medicine with the herbs and creating this lifestyle that supports the person that you want to become and the type of practitioner you want to become. So all the hands-on stuff and the implementation stuff is you changing yourself from the inside out so that you can be that version for whoever is your client or your family or whoever you're making these changes for.
Thank you, Marina, for painting that picture. And just as we wrap up here, I'm curious what tips or insights or last words maybe that you have for someone watching this today, whether in the replay, to really have food for thought or a step to move forward, anything to that effect.
Yes, absolutely. So there's so many gems I could share, but I will say that pay attention to what you're focusing on. Wherever you focus, that's what grows for you. Your mind is always looking for evidence, right? Evidence of what's working or what's not working. So you want to be the person behind your mind that is directing the mind, right? So if you want health or if you want more success or you want more money, you want more freedom, whatever it is that you want, focus on what actions or what people you can follow that already have what you want. Look for the evidence of that becoming true versus continually finding excuses of why it's impossible for you. So it really depends on how you train yourself to look at things in order to understand what's possible and what's actually there for you. So
Mhm.
just as easily as you can choose to continue, right? You can also easily, fairly easily, just intentionally train yourself to focus on those things that have been possible for others, right? Seek examples and inspiration from other people. Find that success, right? Success leaves clues, and do the kind of things that those people do or that future version of yourself might do, so that you can align with yourself and focus on where it is that you're going versus where it is that you're not going. Because it's like riding
Mhm.
a bicycle. It's like wherever you turn your head, that's where you're going to go. So we
Mhm.
don't want to go down the cliffs where you crash and burn. We want to keep climbing to that mountain where you actually want.
Yeah, thank you. It's so important because what we focus on expands. And so, Marina, if someone wants to get a hold of you, get in touch with you, and follow you, where should someone go?
Yeah, so you can head to my website. It's just my name, marinabuksov.com. And there's a contact me button there if you want to get in touch. You can also look up my name on all social media platforms. So, yeah, just shoot me a note there. I love to talk to you. Put a comment here. I get back to all the comments that are left for me. And I want to support you. So, if there's any way that my journey and my mistakes and everything that I have overcome can help you, this is exactly my purpose, is to help other people avoid some of that pain, the unnecessary mistakes that I personally had to overcome.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. And so you heard here. If you're a pharmacist and looking to change yourself, your life, and to make that transition and have a bridge to hold you on that journey, please reach out to Marina. I think Marina, the link you gave me was essentially to your website, so that's the same link, correct?
Yes. So if you just want to check out what my services are, you can head to the services page. You can check out my graduates of my program on the graduates page. You can click the contact me button. And again, I'm also on social media. So I have some free guides on the website as well, and some communities. So just connect with me and we'll see what resources that might be appropriate for you or how I may be able to support you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Marina, for being here and sharing your immense wisdom on all these different areas. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much, Tammy. It's been a pleasure.